Robert Thomas has been absolutely stellar for the St. Louis Blues, and he truly is the weapon and the reason why I believe the Blues have been so successful. And if you're doubting how he's been playing this year for any way, I'm going to have to tell you he is an all star for a reason. And this is coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues. Here, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode of Locked On Blues, I am going to talk about the rise of Robert Thomas and why he has been so significant for the Blues this season. I think it's also important to talk about him specifically because he is the All-Star and he will be participating in the All-Star game. So there's going to be a lot of Robert Thomas coming up on this podcast. Is this the most exciting team in the Central? I'm going to explain why and talk about our friends in the Central Division and then why the All-Star break is beneficial. And it's not just because you and I get to have some downtime. No. It is because I truly believe that the All-Star break is one of the most crucial parts of the NHL season. So a lot to talk about on today's episode. But before I dive into things, I do need to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your best bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, obviously, there's no doubt in my mind when it comes to Robert Thomas. He is one of the most crucial players on the St. Louis Blues. And it's funny because I feel like Robert Thomas kind of just all of a sudden became the Robert Thomas that we know today, which is a very reliable, dependable player. And it's funny, you look at his career, right? And you look what all the things that he's done. And I have to tell you, this boy, this man, I shall say, actually, has been killing it for the Blues for quite a while. So let's go back to the 2018-2019 season. Thomas played 70 games and he was able to score 9 goals and 24 assists with 33 points. Now, why is that important? Well, your rookie season, being able to do that is quite impressive. Obviously, I know that's not his best season, nowhere near it. But at the same time, I do have to give him credit because, again, he absolutely then began to improve the following season with 10 goals and 32 assists. So the one pattern that I noticed early on with Thomas's career was the fact that he is a great playmaker. Unfortunately, in the 2020-2021 season, he only played 33 games with 3 goals and 9 assists of 12 points total. Obviously not ideal, but we're going to go jump ahead to the most recent seasons. So in 21-22, he played 72 games, 20 goals, 57 assists. Yep, you heard me, 57 assists. And that was his career high with 77 points that season. Last season, he played 73 games with 18 goals and 47 assists, dropping to 65 points. But the reason why I'm mentioning this right now, Robert Thomas, okay, 17 goals, 35 assists, 52 points, and only played 48 games so far. So I think Thomas is about to accumulate his best season yet. This is impressive. This season, RT also got a shorthanded goal, which I have to say, impressive to power play goals. He has obviously dominated with the assists with 8 power play assists. But why am I telling you these statistics? This is a podcast where I usually don't talk about statistics. But you can make the argument that he is not the best player on the St. Louis Blues. Sure, you can make the argument that he is maybe not the most experienced. He's not the most skilled in certain things, but he is the most dominant player. So he is on pace right now to break, his career high. And I think that it's important to recognize how underrated he is. I mean, even that first season, as I mentioned, he did, make some good moves. And what I mean by that is he did play 70 games, that first season with only 33 points, but still 24 assists is quite impressive. So I don't know. Like, am I so off for saying that Robert Thomas is the best player on the St. Louis Blues? Or is that disrespectful to other players? Now, I want to focus just on RT, but it's hard not to compare other players and talk about them. Do I think that Braden Shen has had a stellar career? Yes, obviously. Do I think that Jordan Kyrou has had his moments of being really solid? Yes. Um, but when you look at a guy like Robert Thomas, there is no denying the fact that he has all the assets you need for a successful hockey player. He's good speed wise. He's good at setting up plays. He's good at, being by the net for those rebounds. Like he has a high hockey IQ. So for me, when I'm looking at the St. Louis Blues and I'm saying to myself, okay, who is an all-star? When people ask me all the time, they're like, Haley, tell us like one thing about the St. Louis Blues. And I'm like, Robert Thomas is an all-star. He is unbelievable. And I will go on and on and on about his talent because I feel like he has the talent that the NHL for some reason doesn't highlight. And I've always found that a little strange that the Blues don't really get talked much about when it comes to the NHL. This is something I talked about in the summertime. And I always find it like very off-putting. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it definitely has me confused because you have this player that has been exceptional and he should be getting more credit, more praise. But at the same time, I kind of like that it's our thing here in St. Louis because, again, there are certain players in the league that do get all that kind of like national attention. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? But another thing that I also have to remind myself that Robert Thomas is only 24 years old. And he's going to be with us for quite a while. His contract is a long one. So I don't see RT going anytime soon. But, it is a cool thing when it comes to Robert Thomas and just how much he's been progressing. Obviously, I know that this season, yeah, like his plus minus is it's good at home. Away, it's not as nice. And I love like all the different stats. So you have day and night. Now, personally, I'm not going to read that much into it, but he has been putting up good numbers and he has been somebody that I really can see being the captain one day. I know he's an alternative and I respect that. But I don't think I'm so far off for saying that I do think that he is somebody that really could be the captain of this team one day. So it is a little funny because for me at least, I look at him and I wonder what is it about him that makes him so special? And it's the fact that he's able to really just generate this sense of like chillness. I don't know if that makes any sense, but he's able to hold himself to a high standard on the ice. And he's been consistent. There's times, yeah, sure, in games where he doesn't really do much, I guess you can say. But at the same time, he's never a detrimental factor on the ice. And he's always helping the Blues rather than hurting. And there's some players, and I talk about this quite a bit, that do hurt the Blues. But not him. I'm not going to bash other players. That's not like the whole point of this. I just thought it was an interesting thing to make. So, Robert Thomas, I appreciate you, and I am so excited to see the future of you with your time on the Blues. But most importantly, it's cool seeing how the team responds to Robert Thomas. He is the natural leader on the ice. So, yeah, overall, huge RT person. So, it's always Robert Thomas season for me. See, I went on a rant about Robert Thomas, and it's not even like I felt like I was podcasting just then. This is literally like how I talk with my friends because I am that passionate about Robert Thomas. Okay, so you know what else I'm passionate about? It's FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. This Super Bowl, by the way, it is the Chiefs 49ers. And if you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snack, and placing some super bets. What I like most about the Super Bowl, honestly, is the game. I love that it's like this high anticipation type of game going on, sun or death, basically, and it gets me quite excited. And FanDuel has so many ways for you to enjoy the end of the season with a W, two, or three. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit fanduel.com/locked on to sign up. That's fanduel.com/locked on. Make every moment more. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NHL. And to all those that want the Chiefs to win, time to shine. So, before I talk about this, about the Central Division, I want to address something because one, I'm going to be transparent and honest on this podcast. And two, it is relevant because it has to do with our hockey community. Today, um, news broke that 5 players, one who's not in the NHL anymore, but 4 current NHLers were charged with, and I guess I should say a trigger warning first off. I usually don't ever do that, but for those that are uncomfortable, just skip ahead a couple minutes. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, and just for the sake of it, I'm just going to say SA. I'm sure you can understand what that means. I just don't want to upset anybody. So they were charged with SA. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is this. As a woman in the hockey community, I have seen a lot of negative stuff on social media about victim blaming and things like that. Now, you might be wondering, how is this relevant to this podcast? Fine, valid. I'm glad you asked. As a hockey community, I think at the end of the day, the number one thing is being good people. When I think of hockey, I think of good people. Some of the best people I've ever met. The players are always outstanding. And I don't want the hockey community to think that because of these, I'm not going to name their names, but because of these people that did what they did, that this is a bad community. This is the best community. And at the end of the day, justice, there's a process for everything. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a process for everything. I also know that many of you will be asking questions about, what's going on, what happened. We had a couple players on the Blues that were a part of that team, and they didn't do anything. Names were cleared. One of the players wasn't even in, London at the time. But the reason why I'm addressing this on this podcast is I'm a part of a podcast network called Locked On. And I have friends that they're hosts of some of these teams that were directly impacted. And I don't know if anybody watches those podcasts, but all I'm asking is just be kind. For those that know anything about me, I am very involved with the hockey world, and it's been a little bit of a stressful of a time, if I'm being honest and transparent. But I wanted to take these couple minutes just to address, yes, I know what's going on. Feel free to talk about it in the comments. Nothing inappropriate, but if you just have something to say, because I do want to make this, even though I focus on the Blues, obviously, I can't ignore the elephant in the room, and I would feel like that would be unjust to do so. So I appreciate anybody that kind of listened to that little rant. It's uncomfortable to talk about, so it's obviously uncomfortable to listen to. But as your host of Locked On Blues, I just wanted to be honest because today isn't the most cheerful kind of day for me. So, anyways, I will be talking, shifting gears. Like I know it's like a cold transition, but shifting gears to why the Blues are the most exciting team in the Central. You might be saying, Haley, what are you talking about? Like the Blues are not the best team in the Central. Why do you care so much about, this division? Well, okay, I care a lot about this division for many reasons. One, I am trying to get, well, I'm not trying, the Blues are trying, but I want the Blues to get at least in third place in the division, being third in the Central. And luckily, last night, something kind of magical happened where the Senators, who were trailing 3-0, were able to come back and take down the Predators in overtime. Claude Giroux with the OT goal. But why is that important to us? Because that means that if the Predators got the 2 points last night, we would have been bumped down to fifth in the Central. So I am just praying to the hockey gods that things work out in our favor. But right now, the St. Louis Blues have the biggest win streak in the Central. But it's not even just that. They were a team that so many counted out. Oh, the Blues aren't that good. They lost to this team and that team. And you heard it all. And now they're playing well. So I am going to talk about where every team in the Central Division is. That way you know how many points, what's going on, and why this is such an important stretch for the Blues. So the Blackhawks are in dead last with 30 points. I am not surprised. The Wild have 47. The Yotes have 49. Preds have 54. We have 54, but we have less games played. They have 50 and we have 48. So obviously we're going to be ranked higher than them. The Jets have 65 points. So right now, 9 points ahead of the Blues. The Stars have 66 and the Avs have 67. So you might be wondering, Hale, like, come on, let's be realistic. Do you really think the Blues are going to be able to catch up? I do. Because in the 5 games that they won in a row, they were able to get, if you do the math, 10 points. So just like that, the Blues were able to go from 44 points to 54 points. Boom. The other thing I want to mention is that this is the time in the NHL where teams begin to crumble and fall. So if you see some teams that are a little bit higher up begin to kind of slip and fall and not play as well, you heard it here first, because I promise you that's going to happen. And to those who are fans of those teams, I am so sorry, but I believe what I said. And I'm going to explain more about why I think that coming up. But I need to tell you about my friend over at eBay Motors. Passion, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from supercharger roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay Guaranteed Fit only, available to U.S. customers. The All-Star break is important for many reasons. I think it's a time where teams can really just relax, okay? They can relax, they can recuperate, and then they can focus. But the reason why I said, hey, if your team is one of those teams, it may not be the best thing. The Jets right now, they are on a 3-game losing streak, okay? And they will not be playing until February 6th. So you might be wondering, Hale, isn't that a good thing for them to reset? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think that with losing streaks, when you go out into the All-Star break with a losing streak, when you come back, oh, we just lost 3 in a row, I think it's going to play. But I also think that momentum is such a huge thing when it comes to the NHL. Teams thrive off of momentum. I mean, every single team besides the Blues, the Stars, and the Avs are currently dealing with a losing streak. So there you go. And I think for the Blues, obviously they play Columbus tonight. It is so important for them to win or go to OT, get a point, fine. But it is important for many reasons for them to continuously fight for every point. Because if they continue, and I'm saying this as, a fan, as something that's looking at this statistically, just in general, if they continue to rack up these points, then they're going to completely be in the wild card round. I mean, it could be a wild card team, not a round. I'm thinking of football now. But it's interesting, right, about the momentum. And this team has built up a bunch of momentum. And Scott Perunovich is still out, lower body injury. Tucker's in, which I've talked about. I mean, there's a lot of things continuously happening with this team. But I think most importantly, it has been Buch. And I said that yesterday, but Buchnevich, I mean, he has been stellar. And I think that with Thomas, Buchnevich, Neighbors, Schenner, because Shenny has been phenomenal in these last slate of games, you're seeing a completely new team. Obviously, I want to see more out of, Kevin Hayes. I mean, Sonny's been good. Like, I want more. And I'm selfish. I mean, Nick Leddy, underrated. Colton Pareko, underrated. And I could go on. This team finally just looks like a good hockey team. Even Bennington's getting his footing back in net. Hofer's been really good and impressive. I mean, completely different than what I thought during the beginning of the season. I had no faith. I was like, he needs some more time in the AHL. And now I'm like, okay, I see it now. I get it. I get why I caught him up. But this is a really fun team. And you cannot take that away from St. Louis. I am so excited right now just to see what goes on with this team. And tomorrow, I hope I have a positive episode with them winning against the Blue Jackets, a little bit of a rematch. So, revenge against them. But I'm just really proud of the guys in blue. Okay. Well, not the Blue Jackets, but like our players. And I'm just happy right now to be a fan of the St. Louis Blues because I am living my best life. And you can't take that from me. If you know, you know. All right. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.